Hello and welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we are intentionally ignoring the penthouse. The foundation. Exactly.
Yeah.
We have a massive stack of research here on human anatomy, specifically the spine. But we're pushing aside the cervical spine and the neck,
Yep.
and we're bypassing the thoracic spine and the rib cage. We are focusing exclusively on the heavy lifting department, the lumbar vertebrae, the sacrum, and the coccygeals.
Which is frankly where all the drama happens. I mean, you look at the statistics in these papers and something like 80% of people will experience lower back pain.
80%. Wow.
And once you understand the engineering of this specific section, from your lower ribs down to your tailbone, it's honestly surprising that number isn't 100%.
That's the hook for me. I was looking at the diagrams of the lumbar vertebrae L1 through L5 and compared to the neck bones we've looked at before, these things are monsters.
Oh, they are.
They look like industrial equipment compared to, delicate jewelry.
They have to be. I mean, think about the physics. Your neck, the cervical spine, it only has to hold up your head.
Right, a bowling ball.
A bowling ball, maybe 10, 12 pounds. But the lumbar spine, it's carrying the head, the neck, the arms, the chest. Anything you decide to carry, it is the funnel for gravity.
So they are the offensive line of the skeleton.
That is a great way to put it. They're the offensive line. They need mass. They need stability. But, and here's the kicker, they also need to be flexible.
Right.
You need to touch your toes, twist to grab something. That combination, high load bearing plus high mobility, is it's an engineering nightmare.
And that's our roadmap for this deep dive. We're going to break down the typical lumbar vertebrae first, so L1 to L4.
Okay.
Then we'll look at the troublemaker, L5, which the notes call a maverick.
It is.
Then we cross the border into the pelvis with the sacrum, and finally we'll see if the coccyx is actually useless or not.
Spoiler alert. It's not useless.
I had a feeling you'd say that. Let's start with the name lumbar. The notes say it comes from the Latin lumbar for loin.
Right. The region of the loins. We have 5 of them. And if you were holding a model of a typical lumbar vertebra, say an L3, the first thing that hits you is the shape of the body.
The big block at the front.
Yeah, that big block. It's described as reniform.
Reniform, which means...
Kidney-shaped.
Okay, I can see that. It's like a massive, bony kidney bean. Is that shape just random, or is there a functional reason for that?
Oh, it's all about packaging. You got to remember, the spine isn't just floating in space. You have these major vessels running right in front of it. The aorta, the vena cava.
The plumbing.
The big plumbing. So that broad width distributes weight really efficiently, but without, getting in the way of everything in front of it.
Now, let's play a game. If I'm a med student, I reach into a bag of loose bones. How do I know I'm holding a lumbar vertebra and not, say, a thoracic one? The notes mention a negative ID method.
Right. It's the Sherlock Holmes approach. You look for what's missing.
Okay.
So a thoracic vertebra, it has these little smooth spots, costal facets. That's where the ribs plug in.
And the lumbar spine has no ribs.
0 ribs, so no costal facets. And then if you compare it to a neck bone, the cervicals have little holes in their side wings for arteries.
Foramina transversaria.
Exactly. The lumbar doesn't need those. So massive body, no rib spots, no artery holes. You're holding a lumbar vertebra.
Simple enough.
Yeah.
Let's look at the back half of the arch. This is the ring that protects the spinal cord. I noticed the hole in the middle, the vertebral foramen, it's triangular.
It is, and the size comparison is interesting here. The hole is larger than in the thoracic region, but it's smaller than in the cervical.
Why wouldn't it be the biggest? Doesn't all the nerve traffic have to go through there?
You'd think so, but remember, the spinal cord itself, the solid cable, it actually ends higher up, around L1 or L2.
Oh, right.
Below that, it's not a solid cord. It unravels into individual nerve strands, the cauda equina.
A horse's tail.
Exactly.
Right.
And a bundle of loose nerves just takes up less space than that solid cord. So the hole is big enough, but it doesn't need to be huge.
Okay, let's talk about the hardware. The pedicles.
The little bridges. And in the lumbar spine, these are short and just incredibly strong, and their position is crucial. They create this notch underneath.
The inferior vertebral notch.
Right, so when you stack 2 vertebrae, the deep notch of the top one lines up with the shallow notch of the bottom one, and boom, you've got a window.
The intervertebral foramen, the exit door for the spinal nerves,
That's the one.
and then the laminae, the plates that close the roof. The source material points out a specific gap here that sounds really important clinically.
It's vital. In the thoracic spine, the laminae overlap like shingles on a roof. You can't get a needle in there.
Too much bone in the way.
Right. But in the lumbar spine, they don't overlap. There's a gap,
A gap in the armor.
a functional window. And here's the cool part. If you ask a patient to bend forward, to flex their spine, that window opens even wider.
Which is why they curl you into a ball for a spinal tap.
That's exactly why. It spreads those laminae apart so the needle can pass straight through into the canal.
It's designed for access. Or at least we've exploited the design.
We certainly have.
Let's look at the sticky outy bits. The processes. The spinous process, the bump you feel in your back, is described as quadrilateral.
It's a hatchet, a thick rectangular blade sticking straight back. It's not pointy and sloping down like in the thoracic spine.
Built for leverage.
Totally. The massive erector spinae muscles, they need a big, broad surface to grab onto to pull you upright.
And then the transverse processes, the wings, they look, surprisingly flimsy to me, long and thin.
They are thin, yeah, often described as tapering. But this brings us to one of the coolest hidden details in the text.
Okay, I'm ready.
The mammillary and accessory processes.
Those tiny little bumps.
Tiny bumps that tell a huge evolutionary story. So on the superior articular process, the joint connecting to the vertebra above, there's a rough bump called the mammillary process.
Mammillary, like mammary.
Same root, yeah. Just means nipple-shaped. It's an attachment for deep, stabilizing muscles, but the real mind-bender is the accessory process.
This is the tiny grid of bone at the root of the wing.
Exactly, and here's why you should care. That tiny accessory process, that's the actual transverse process.
Hold on, wait.
Yeah.
What's the big long wing sticking out?
That wing is technically a costal element.
A rib.
It's a rib. In the lumbar spine, nature decided we didn't need ribs, so the rib bone just fused into the side of the vertebra and became what we call the transverse process.
That is wild. So my lower back is full of phantom ribs that just merged with the spine.
Biology is the ultimate recycler. It never throws good bone away, it just repurposes it.
Okay, so moving down the sac, we get to L5. The text calls this the atypical vertebra. Why does the fifth lumbar get special treatment?
Because L5 has arguably the hardest job in the human body. Think about its position. It's the bottom block of the mobile spine, and it's sitting on the sacrum.
Which is fused and rigid.
And tilted. L5 is sitting on a steep slope.
The lumbosacral angle.
Yeah, it has to bridge the flexible spine with a rigid pelvis, all while sitting on a slide. So its anatomy is it's distorted. The body is wedge-shaped, much taller in the front than in the back.
To compensate for that curve.
Exactly. And those thin transverse processes we just talked about, at L5, they bulk up. They become these massive, thick cones to anchor the ligaments that are basically tie-down straps.
Keeping it from sliding off the sacrum.
Trying to.
But despite the bulk, the notes suggest this is where the system usually fails. This is clinical corner.
Oh, it is. L5S1 is the most common site for all kinds of misery. Let's talk disc prolapse. A slipped disc.
I like the food analogy the notes used, the jelly donut.
It's a classic because it works. You've got the outer ring of dough, the annulus fibrosus, and the jelly center, the nucleus pulposus.
Okay.
Now, put that donut in a hydraulic press, which is basically your lumbar spine. Over time, or with bad lifting mechanics, the dough cracks.
And the jelly squeezes out.
And unfortunately, the spinal nerves are sitting right there.
Right where the jelly lands.
Yeah. And this is crucial. The pain isn't always just in the back. It's sciatica. The nerve root being crushed at L5S1 sends pain signals down its entire length.
So you feel it in your leg.
Your buttock, back of your leg, even your foot. The source of the problem is in your back, but the alarm bell is ringing in your foot.
Oh, now there are two other terms in the notes that look terrifyingly similar. Spondylolysis and spondylolisthesis.
I know they're a mouthful. Let's break them down.
Please.
Spondylolysis is a stress fracture. Remember, L5 is on that slope. Sometimes the arch of bone at the back it snaps.
So the back of the vertebra disconnects from the front.
Yes, but if the front part, the body actually starts to slide forward down that slope of the sacrum. That's spondylolisthesis. Listhesis literally means slipping.
That sounds bad. A structural failure.
It is. The building is sliding off the foundation. It can be a major problem.
The notes also mention spina bifida. That's a birth defect, right?
It is. It's developmental. Remember those laminae that are supposed to meet in the middle? Sometimes they don't fuse. The canal is left open.
Is that always disastrous?
Not always. There's spina bifida occulta, meaning hidden. A lot of people have it and don't even know. Maybe there's just a little patch of hair or a dimple on their lower back.
But it can get worse.
Much worse. If the protective linings bulge out, that's a meningocele. If the spinal cord itself is inside that bulge, that's a myelomeningocele, and that usually means severe nerve damage.
Let's cross the border now. We're leaving the mobile spine and entering the sacrum, the sacred bone.
The keystone.
It looks like a shield or spade.
A big triangular wedge, and the key thing is that it's not really one bone, it's 5 vertebrae S1 to S5 that fuse together.
You can still see the seams, though.
Oh, absolutely. On the front, the concave pelvic surface, you see these 4 transverse ridges. Those are the weld lines where the discs used to be.
And then there are the holes, the anterior sacral foramina.
4 pairs of them. And these are massive exits for the nerves that power your legs, your bladder, bowel.
Yeah.
This is high-stakes wiring.
The orientation of the sacrum is confusing me a bit. It's not straight up and down.
No, and that's a common misconception. The top of the sacrum, the base, is actually tilted forward pretty aggressively, maybe 30 or 40 degrees.
So the top is pointing towards my belly button.
Right. And the front lip of that first vertebra, S1, sticks out like a cliff edge. It's called the sacral promontory. It's a huge landmark for obstetricians.
Because it can get in the way of a baby's head.
Exactly. Speaking of which, the notes go into full CSI mode on male versus female sacrums. This is a big tell.
So the sacrum is the gender reveal party of the skeleton.
It's one of the best indicators, yeah. It's all about childbirth. The female pelvis needs to pass a human head, so the female sacrum is wider and shorter.
Wider makes sense.
But look at the curve. A male sacrum curves smoothly like a C, but that C shape eats up space.
So the female sacrum is flatter.
For the first 3 segments, it's remarkably flat. Then, at the bottom, it hooks forward sharply. It just maximizes the volume of the pelvic bowl.
There was also a trick in the notes about the wings.
The alae, yes. In a male, the central body of S1 is wider than the wing next to it. In a female, because the whole bone is stretched sideways, the wing is actually wider than the body.
That's a great detail. Let's flip it over. The back side, the dorsal surface, looks like a mountain range.
It's rough. You've got the median sacral crest down the middle. That's the fused spinous processes, that bumpy ridge you feel between your hip dimples. That's it.
And then right at the bottom, the mountain range it stops. There's a gap, the sacral hiatus.
This connects back to our spina bifida talk. At the very bottom, S5, the laminae almost never meet. They leave an inverted U-shaped opening.
Is that a weakness?
It's a feature, not a bug. Clinically, it's another access port.
Another back door. What for?
Caudal epidurals. If you need to numb the pelvic floor, say for childbirth, you can slide a needle right through that hiatus into the sacral canal. It's the service entrance for the lower nerves.
Amazing. Okay, finally, we reach the end of the line. The coccyx, the tailbone. The name comes from the Greek for cuckoo's beak.
Which is a great visual. It's curved and pointed, usually 4 tiny vertebrae all fused together.
Now, I feel like the coccyx gets no respect. It's the punchline of the skeleton. It's just a vestigial tail. But looking at these muscle attachments, that's not true, is it?
It is definitely not true. If you've ever bruised your tailbone, you know exactly how not useless it is.
What's it actually doing?
It's an anchor, a major anchor. The gluteus maximus, the biggest muscle in your body, attaches to the coccyx.
So walking involves the tailbone.
And more intimately, the sphincter ani externus.
The muscle that controls the exit.
Exactly. The coccyx anchors the muscles that maintain bowel continence. So without this useless little beak, you would have significant problems.
Oh, my coccyx an apology.
It's small but mighty. And it has joints. The coccygeal cornua little horns reach up to grab the sacrum, and in women, that joint is movable.
Movable, why?
During labor, the coccyx can be pushed backward to increase the diameter of the outlet by a couple of centimeters.
That's a game changer.
It makes all the difference.
One final thing. The notes mentioned sacralization and lumbarization. We think of it as 5 lumbar, 5 sacral, set in stone. But the border is fuzzy.
Surprisingly fluid. In about 5 to 10% of people, L5 decides it wants to be part of the sacrum. It fuses to the pelvis. That's sacralization.
So you lose a mobile joint.
Yes. Conversely, sometimes S1 decides it doesn't want to be stuck in the block. It stays separate. That's lumbarization.
So you have a 6th lumbar vertebra.
Effectively, yeah. And it matters immensely if you're a surgeon. You go in to operate on L4, L5, but the patient has 6 lumbar vertebrae. You might operate on the wrong level.
Wow.
You have to be so careful. It's a reminder that normal anatomy is just an average, not a rule.
So zooming out, we've gone from the massive kidney-shaped lumbar engines
The weight bearers.
across the slippery slope of the L5 wedge
The structural weak point.
into the fused triangular shield of the sacrum
The keystone.
and ended at the muscular anchor of the coccyx.
It's a beautiful transition of force. You take the load of the whole upper body, channel it through that column, transfer it across a tilted joint into a rigid ring, and split it to the legs.
It's the ultimate distribution
It
system.
really is.
And it makes me realize that things like the gaps in the laminae or the hiatus aren't flaws. They are necessary spacing for the software, the nerves, to interact with the hardware.
That's the takeaway. The bone must be strong, but it cannot be a wall. It has to be a gateway.
Well, I'm going to sit up a little straighter in my chair now. Thanks for walking us through the basement of the spine.
Always a pleasure to dig into the foundations.
And thank you for listening. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.